What if everything we think we know about ancient civilizations is just the tip of the iceberg? We often picture the past as primitive, a world before electricity, before engines, before the conveniences we take for granted. But hidden in the shadows of history are mind-bending innovations, brilliant inventions so ahead of their time, they defy our assumptions. These weren't just simple tools or lucky accidents. They were strokes of genius lost to centuries, waiting to be rediscovered. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on 25 of these forgotten marvels, each one a testament to the astonishing ingenuity of our ancestors. Picture this: 2,000 years before the Industrial Revolution, devices that could predict celestial events with pinpoint accuracy, machines that harnessed the power of nature in ways we're only now beginning to understand. From the depths of ancient shipwrecks to the ruins of forgotten cities, archaeologists have uncovered artifacts that shouldn't exist, objects that rewrite what we thought was possible. Some were so advanced their secrets remained unsolved for generations. Others were so bizarre they've been dismissed as myths until now. This isn't just a history lesson. It's a journey into the extraordinary minds of those who came before us. How did they dream up these ideas without the technology we have today? Why were so many of these inventions lost to time? And what does their rediscovery mean for our understanding of human progress? As we explore these 25 forgotten wonders, you'll start to see the past in a whole new light, not as a linear march toward modernity, but as a tapestry of brilliance, mystery, and untapped potential. So settle in, because what you're about to discover might just change the way you see history forever. Among these lost wonders of the ancient world, none sparks more awe than the Antikythera Mechanism. Discovered in the wreckage of a 2,000-year-old Greek ship, this bronze marvel was initially mistaken for a simple navigational tool. But when researchers peered beneath its corroded surface, they found something extraordinary: an intricate system of interlocking gears so precise it could chart the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with near-perfect accuracy. Think of it as the world's first analog computer, crafted centuries before similar technology would reappear in history. What makes this device truly remarkable is how it defies the timeline of human innovation. The Antikythera Mechanism didn't just track time, it predicted eclipses, mapped the paths of celestial bodies, and even accounted for irregularities in the moon's orbit. Its creators achieved this without modern tools, relying instead on pure mechanical genius. Tiny engraved inscriptions acted as a user manual, explaining how to align the gears to match the heavens above. For ancient sailors, this could mean the difference between a safe voyage and disaster. For farmers, it dictated planting seasons. For scholars, it unlocked the rhythms of the cosmos. Yet the most haunting question isn't how it worked, but why its secrets vanished for millennia. No other device of its complexity appears in the archaeological record for over 1,000 years. Was it a lone masterpiece or just one survivor from a forgotten era of mechanical brilliance? Some believe it hints at a lost school of engineering, its knowledge wiped out by war or time. Others speculate that similar devices still lie buried, waiting to rewrite history once more. Either way, the Antikythera Mechanism stands as a silent challenge to our assumptions, proof that the past was far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. While the Antikythera Mechanism dazzles with its mechanical sophistication, another ancient invention struck terror into the hearts of enemies: Greek fire. This legendary Byzantine weapon was so potent, so unstoppable, that it single-handedly turned the tide of naval battles for centuries. Imagine a liquid flame that clung to ships, burned fiercely on water, and defied all attempts to extinguish it. The mere sight of it spewing from Byzantine warships sent invaders into panicked retreat, their fleets reduced to floating infernos. The secret of Greek fire's composition remains one of history's great unsolved mysteries. Historians and chemists still debate its ingredients, though most agree it likely included a volatile mix of naphtha, quicklime, and other combustible materials. Some accounts describe it as a sticky, glue-like substance, impossible to shake off once it touched skin or wood. Others claim it ignited spontaneously upon contact with water, a terrifying trait that made it the ultimate naval weapon. What's certain is that the Byzantine Empire guarded its formula as closely as modern nations protect nuclear secrets. Knowledge was compartmentalized, with only a handful of trusted alchemists and military commanders privy to the full recipe. Its impact on warfare was nothing short of revolutionary. During the Arab sieges of Constantinople in the 7th and 8th centuries, Greek fire became the empire's great equalizer. Outnumbered and outgunned, Byzantine ships would unleash torrents of this liquid flame, incinerating enemy vessels in moments. Contemporary accounts describe the chaos it caused, sailors leaping into the sea to escape the flames, only to find the fire chasing them across the waves. The psychological effect was as devastating as the physical damage. Opposing fleets would scatter at the mere rumor of Greek fire's deployment, knowing there was no defense against its wrath. Yet for all its power, the technology vanished as mysteriously as it appeared. By the time of the Fourth Crusade in the 13th century, the recipe had been lost, whether through secrecy, disaster, or the collapse of Byzantine institutions, we may never know. Modern attempts to recreate Greek fire have fallen short, leaving historians to wonder if we'll ever fully unravel its secrets. Was its disappearance a fluke of history, or did the Byzantines take their greatest weapon to the grave? Either way, Greek fire stands as a haunting reminder of how the ancient world could outmatch even our modern understanding of chemistry and warfare. The ancient Romans built structures that have defied time itself, colosseums that still host crowds, aqueducts that carried water for centuries, and harbors that withstand the relentless pounding of the sea. How? The answer lies in a forgotten marvel, Roman concrete. While modern concrete crumbles after decades, theirs grew stronger with age. The secret wasn't just in their engineering, but in a revolutionary ingredient lost to history for nearly 2,000 years: volcanic ash. Unlike today's brittle mixtures, Roman concrete was designed to last. Archaeologists studying ancient ports like Pozzuoli discovered something astonishing: structures submerged in seawater for millennia showed no signs of erosion. In fact, the saltwater had actually strengthened them. Modern scientists, puzzled by this phenomenon, finally cracked the code. The Romans mixed lime with volcanic ash from nearby Mount Vesuvius, creating a chemical reaction that formed ultra-durable minerals. These crystals acted like self-healing agents, filling cracks as they formed. The result? Concrete that didn't just resist decay, it thrived in it. What's even more remarkable is how this ancient technology shames modern construction. Today, bridges and roads require constant repairs, often failing within 50 years. Yet the Pantheon's dome, built with Roman concrete, has stood unreinforced for nearly 2,000 years. Engineers now scramble to replicate the formula, but the exact blend of volcanic ash, lime, and seawater remains elusive. Some researchers believe the Romans heated the lime to extreme temperatures, creating a reactive paste that bonded uniquely with the ash. Others think the key lies in the specific volcanic minerals found only in certain regions of Italy. But here's the real twist: this wasn't just luck. The Romans knew exactly what they were doing. Writings from the time describe precise ratios and mixing techniques, proof that this was a deliberate innovation, not a happy accident. So why did this knowledge vanish? Some blame the fall of Rome itself, with trade routes collapsing and specialized craftsmen disappearing. Others suggest medieval builders simply lacked access to the right volcanic materials. Whatever the reason, the loss of Roman concrete represents one of history's great technological regressions, a step backward we're only now trying to undo. As modern scientists race to reverse engineer this ancient supermaterial, it forces us to ask a humbling question: did the Romans outbuild us, their concrete didn't just stand the test of time, it laughed in its face. And while we pour billions into fixing our crumbling infrastructure, the ghosts of Roman engineers whisper across the centuries, holding the blueprint to something we still can't quite replicate. Deep in the vaults of the National Museum of Iraq sits a cluster of peculiar clay jars, each about the size of a fist, sealed with asphalt and fitted with copper cylinders and iron rods. Discovered in the 1930s near Baghdad, these unassuming artifacts sparked a debate that still rages today. Were these the world's first batteries? Dating back 2,000 years to the Parthian Empire, the so-called Baghdad Batteries challenge everything we thought we knew about ancient technology. The design is deceptively simple yet eerily modern. Fill the jar with an acidic liquid like vinegar or grape juice, and the iron and copper create a chemical reaction capable of producing a small electric current, roughly 1 volt per jar. Stack several together, and suddenly you've got enough power to electroplate gold onto silver, a technique the Parthians were known to use for jewelry. Archaeologists have found gilded artifacts from the same period with a suspiciously thin, even coating exactly what you'd expect from electroplating rather than manual leaf application. But here's where the mystery deepens. No wires or conductors have ever been found alongside these jars, leaving skeptics to argue they might have held sacred scrolls instead of electrolytes. Some theorists propose they were used for religious rituals, delivering mild shocks to induce spiritual visions or powering primitive medical devices like acupuncture. Ancient texts mention temple healers using electric fish to numb pain. Could these jars have served a similar purpose? The truth may lie somewhere in between. Recent experiments replicating the Baghdad batteries confirm they can generate electricity, but the lack of clear context makes their purpose frustratingly ambiguous. Were they a tool forgotten when the Parthian Empire fell, a secretive priestly technology, or simply storage vessels mislabeled by overeager archaeologists? What's undeniable is their eerie resemblance to modern galvanic cells centuries before Volta's famous battery in the 1800s. If these jars were indeed power sources, they represent a stunning leap forward, lost in the shadows between antiquity and the scientific revolution. Whether practical or ceremonial, their very existence forces us to reconsider how much ancient innovators truly understood about the invisible forces of nature and how much knowledge might have slipped through the cracks of time. Long before the age of steam engines and locomotives, an ingenious device sat bubbling away in the temples of ancient Alexandria, the Aeolipile, also known as Hero's engine. Named after its inventor, Hero of Alexandria, this first-century marvel wasn't just a curiosity, it was the world's first working steam turbine, a concept so ahead of its time that it wouldn't be replicated for nearly 1,700 years. Picture a hollow metal sphere mounted on a vertical axle with 2 bent nozzles protruding from opposite sides. When filled with water and heated, the escaping steam created a reactive force so powerful it sent the sphere spinning at dizzying speeds. The principles behind the Aeolipile were nothing short of revolutionary. Hero had unwittingly harnessed Newton's third law of motion. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction centuries before Newton himself would articulate it. Steam jetting from the nozzles pushed against the air, and the sphere responded by rotating in the opposite direction. In modern terms, it was a rudimentary reaction turbine, the same basic technology that would later power everything from power plants to jet engines. Had this invention been paired with the right gearing systems, some historians argue it could have kick-started the Industrial Revolution a millennium and a half early. Yet instead of transforming industry, the Aeolipile became little more than a temple spectacle, a divine parlor trick to amaze worshippers. Ancient texts describe it as a wonder, a plaything of the gods, but there's no evidence it was ever adapted for practical work. Why? The answer lies in the social and economic landscape of the time. The Roman Empire, where Hero lived, relied heavily on slave labor. With thousands of enslaved workers to perform manual tasks, there was little incentive to invest in labor-saving machinery. Steam power might have seemed like a novelty when human muscle was cheap and abundant. There's also the matter of materials. While Hero's design was brilliant, the metallurgy of the era couldn't yet produce the sturdy, pressure-resistant boilers needed for large-scale steam applications. The Aeolipile worked beautifully as a small-scale demonstration, but scaling it up would have required advancements in engineering that simply didn't exist yet. But perhaps the most haunting question isn't why the Aeolipile failed to catch on, but what might have been. Imagine if its potential had been recognized, if generations of inventors had built upon Hero's breakthrough instead of forgetting it. Would railways have crisscrossed ancient empires? Would factories have risen along the Nile centuries before the spinning jenny? The Aeolipile stands as a heartbreaking what if of history, a glimpse of a path not taken, buried under the weight of circumstance until the age of steam dawned all over again. In the year 132, during China's Han Dynasty, a brilliant scientist named Zhang Heng unveiled something extraordinary, a device capable of sensing earthquakes from hundreds of miles away. Not just a simple alarm, his seismoscope was a masterpiece of art and engineering, a towering bronze vessel adorned with 8 dragons, each clutching a metal ball above the open mouths of 8 bronze toads below. When the earth trembled even faintly, the mechanism inside would trigger one of the dragons to release its ball, producing a loud clang as it landed in the waiting toad's mouth. The direction of the fallen ball pointed to the earthquake's epicenter with shocking precision. What makes Zhang Heng's invention so baffling is how it accomplished this without any modern seismology. Historical records describe it detecting a quake in what's now western Gansu province, over 400 miles from the capital, while no one in the city had felt even a tremor. Emperor An and his court were skeptical until messengers arrived days later confirming the disaster. So how did it work? The inner mechanism, now lost to time, likely used an inverted pendulum suspended in liquid. When seismic waves disturbed the pendulum, it would tilt toward the quake's direction, triggering the corresponding dragon. Some theories suggest mercury-filled channels amplified subtle vibrations, while others propose hidden counterweights balanced the system. The elegance of the design lies in its dual purpose. Beyond its scientific genius, the seismoscope served as a political and symbolic tool. In ancient China, earthquakes were seen as cosmic warnings, divine displeasure with the emperor's rule. By predicting them, Zhang Heng's device didn't just save lives, it reinforced imperial authority, proving the court could interpret heaven's will. Yet for all its sophistication, the seismoscope's secrets vanished. No complete example survives, and later Chinese inventors struggled to recreate it. Was its precision a fluke, or did Zhang Heng possess knowledge we've yet to rediscover? Modern attempts to reconstruct it have met with mixed success, leaving historians to wonder if we'll ever fully grasp the brilliance behind humanity's first earthquake detector, a 2,000-year-old mystery still trembling with unanswered questions. Buried beneath the ruins of an ancient Assyrian palace in modern-day Iraq, a small piece of rock crystal might rewrite our understanding of early optics. Known as the Nimrud Lens, this 3,000-year-old artifact is no ordinary stone. It's a carefully ground oval with one flat side and one convex, polished to near perfection. Discovered alongside glass artifacts in 1850 by archaeologist Austin Henry Layard, its precise function remains hotly debated. Was it a magnifying glass for intricate craftsmanship? A component of an early telescope, or perhaps even a decorative piece with unintended optical properties? The truth may be stranger than fiction. What makes the Nimrud Lens so extraordinary is its craftsmanship. Measuring roughly 4.5 centimeters across, it's ground to a focal length that could magnify small objects when held at the right distance. Assyrian artisans were renowned for their detailed ivory carvings and miniature engravings, work so fine that modern scholars have long wondered how they achieved such precision without aids. The lens provides a compelling answer. Imagine a master craftsman in the bustling workshops of Nimrud, using this crystal to amplify sunlight onto tiny inscriptions or inspect the delicate grooves of a jewelry mold. It's a tantalizing possibility, one that would place the invention of magnifying technology centuries earlier than previously thought. But there's another, even more radical theory. Some researchers suggest the lens wasn't just for close-up work. It might have been part of an early astronomical device. The Assyrians were obsessive celestial observers, meticulously tracking planetary movements for both religious and agricultural purposes. Could this lens have been mounted in a primitive telescope, allowing priests to study the heavens with unprecedented clarity? While no such instrument has been found, the idea isn't far-fetched. Ancient texts describe burning mirrors and other optical tools, hinting at a deeper understanding of light than we've credited them with. The lens's slightly oval shape could even suggest it was meant to correct distortions, a feature that wouldn't be accidental in something so carefully crafted. Yet skeptics argue it might have been purely decorative, a ceremonial ornament, or even a fire-starting tool. Rock crystal was highly prized in Assyria, often used for royal seals and amulets. Without clear context, the lens remains an enigma. But here's what we do know: whoever made it understood the properties of light refraction. Whether by accident or design, they created an object that bends light with purposeful precision, a feat that wouldn't be replicated systematically until the time of the Romans. The real tragedy: this might not have been a one-off invention. If the Assyrians were using lenses, where are the others? Were they lost to looters, or do they still lie buried in unexplored ruins? The Nimrud Lens stands alone in the archaeological record, a solitary clue to a technology that either vanished or was kept secret. It challenges our timeline of scientific progress, whispering that the ancient world's mastery of optics might have been far more advanced than we ever dreamed. And that raises a haunting question: how many other lenses, how many other breakthroughs have we simply failed to recognize? In the storerooms of Crete's Heraklion Archaeological Museum rests one of history's most tantalizing puzzles, the Phaistos Disc. Unearthed in 1908 in the ruins of the Minoan Palace of Phaistos, this circular clay tablet, roughly 15 centimeters in diameter, is unlike anything else from the ancient world. Both sides spiral with a series of 45 distinct symbols, pressed into the clay with precision using individual stamps, a form of movable type printing that wouldn't become common for another 3,000 years. But here's the twist: despite over a century of study, no one has definitively cracked its code. Is it a sacred hymn, a political treaty, or something even more unexpected? The symbols themselves are a mesmerizing gallery of ancient imagery: human figures, shields, birds, fish, even a mysterious helmeted head. Arranged in groups separated by lines, they suggest words or phrases, but comparisons to other known scripts like linear A or B have yielded no clear matches. Some researchers propose it's a form of proto-writing, a bridge between pictograms and true language. Others argue it might be a clever hoax, though radiocarbon dating confirms its origin around 1700 BC, placing it squarely in Minoan Crete's golden age. One of the most compelling theories casts the disc as a religious artifact. The spiral pattern mirrors motifs found in Minoan shrines, possibly representing a journey or ritual. Certain symbols repeat in patterns that resemble invocations or divine names, hinting at a prayer or magical incantation. Imagine a priestess turning the disc as she chants, each stamped symbol calling forth a different blessing or curse. But not everyone agrees. Alternative interpretations range wildly. Could it be an early board game with players moving tokens along the spiral path, a musical score with symbols denoting notes or rhythms? There's even a fringe theory that it's a coded message from a lost civilization, waiting for the right linguistic key to unlock its secrets. The sheer variety of guesses speaks to how thoroughly this artifact defies categorization. What makes the Phaistos Disc truly haunting is the possibility that its meaning might never be recovered. Without a bilingual text, a Rosetta Stone for Minoan symbols, each attempt at translation remains speculative. And yet, its very existence challenges our assumptions. That someone 4,000 years ago went to the effort of crafting individual stamps for each symbol suggests a sophistication we've barely begun to understand. Were there once more of these discs, or was this a singular experiment lost to time? Until another like it surfaces, the Phaistos Disc will keep its secrets, spinning silently through history as one of archaeology's most beautiful and frustrating enigmas. Imagine sailing across the North Atlantic under endless gray skies, the sun hidden behind thick clouds for days. No stars, no landmarks, just the rolling sea in every direction. For most sailors, this would spell disaster, but the Vikings, they had a secret weapon, the legendary sunstone. Recent discoveries suggest these Norse explorers might have harnessed the power of light itself to navigate where others would be hopelessly lost, using a simple crystal to reveal the hidden sun. The secret lies in a phenomenon called polarization. Certain crystals, like Iceland spar, a transparent form of calcite found in Scandinavia, have a unique ability to filter sunlight. Even on overcast days, light scattering through the atmosphere maintains subtle polarization patterns aligned with the sun's position. By rotating a sunstone until the light passing through it appears evenly bright, a navigator could pinpoint the sun's location with startling accuracy. It's like having an invisible compass locked onto a celestial target no one else can see. Archaeological evidence supports this theory. A calcite crystal discovered aboard a 16th century English shipwreck, likely a descendant of Viking navigation methods, proved capable of determining the sun's position within a few degrees even after sunset. But the Vikings' mastery predates this by centuries. Sagas mention a mysterious solarstein used to locate the sun when clouds obscured the sky, and given their unparalleled exploration, reaching North America 500 years before Columbus, it's hard to dismiss these accounts as mere myth. What's truly remarkable is how elegantly this technology meshed with their other navigational skills. Vikings read waves, winds, and even the behavior of seabirds, but the sunstone would have been their ace in the hole during the long, sunless winters of the Arctic. Picture a navigator hunched in the bow of a dragon's ship, holding the crystal to the sky, adjusting it minutely until the faint glow aligned, then steering confidently toward new lands while others clung fearfully to coastlines. Yet the sunstone's legacy is as elusive as the Vikings themselves. No intact examples have been found in Viking graves, possibly because the crystals were too mundane to bury with the dead or too valuable to part with. By the time medieval Europe adopted magnetic compasses, the sunstone faded into legend, its true purpose forgotten until modern science resurrected its secrets. The implications are profound. If Vikings routinely used polarized light to navigate, their voyages weren't just feats of bravery, they were triumphs of ingenuity. It rewrites our image of them as mere raiders, revealing instead a culture of keen observers and brilliant problem solvers. And it leaves us wondering how many other ancient technologies, equally sophisticated, have been dismissed as myth because we couldn't imagine their brilliance. The shimmering blades of Damascus steel weren't just weapons, they were masterpieces of metallurgy so advanced, their secrets eluded modern science for centuries. Forged in the Middle East between the 3rd and 17th centuries, these swords became the stuff of legend, capable of slicing through lesser blades like paper while bending like willow branches without breaking. European crusaders returned from battle with tales of Muslim warriors wielding swords that could cut a floating silk scarf clean in half, yet remain resilient enough to endure brutal combat unharmed. But what made this steel so extraordinary? The answer lies in a delicate alchemy of chemistry and craftsmanship. lost to time until only recently. At the heart of Damascus steel's mystery was its distinctive surface pattern, swirling bands like flowing water, known as damask. These weren't merely decorative, they revealed the steel's unique internal structure. Using Wootz steel imported from India, blacksmiths subjected the metal to a precise cycle of heating, folding, and hammering. This process created microscopic layers of cementite and ultra-hard iron carbide woven into a softer, flexible iron matrix. The result, a blade that combined the hardness of diamond with the flexibility of a spring, a paradox that defied conventional metallurgy. Modern scientists armed with electron microscopes have uncovered even more astonishing details. Damascus steel contained carbon nanotubes, tiny, hollow cylinders of carbon atoms formed naturally during the forging process. These nanostructures, invisible to the naked eye, acted like microscopic reinforcements, distributing stress evenly and preventing cracks from spreading. It's as if medieval smiths stumbled upon nanotechnology centuries before the concept existed, achieving through intuition what labs now struggle to replicate. Yet by the 18th century, the knowledge vanished. The last true Damascus blades were forged from dwindling stocks of Wootz ingots, their makers unaware they were crafting the final chapter of a dying art. Some blame the collapse of trade routes that supplied the rare Indian ore. Others point to guarded guild secrets lost when masters died without heirs. Whatever the cause, attempts to recreate the steel failed spectacularly until recently. Today, laboratories use advanced techniques like powder metallurgy and controlled cooling to mimic the nanostructures of Damascus steel with some success. But even our best imitations lack the organic perfection of the originals. The ancient smiths worked with variables they couldn't fully understand: trace impurities in the ore, the exact temperature of charcoal fires, even the mineral content of quenching water. Their craftsmanship was as much intuition as science, a dance between artisan and element that modern precision can't quite replicate. What makes this loss especially poignant is how it flips our assumptions about progress. We imagine technology as a ladder, each era climbing higher. But Damascus steel reminds us that knowledge isn't always cumulative. Sometimes it slips through our fingers, leaving later generations to puzzle over the fragments. Those swirling patterns on a medieval blade aren't just metal, they're a fingerprint of genius, a whisper from a time when the line between art and science was beautifully blurred. The legend sounds like something straight out of Greek mythology, a weapon so powerful it could set enemy ships ablaze from a distance using nothing but sunlight. Yet ancient historians like Lucian and Galen describe it as terrifyingly real, Archimedes' death ray. During the Roman siege of Syracuse in 212 BC, the brilliant mathematician and inventor supposedly lined up an array of polished bronze shields or mirrors along the city walls, angling them to focus the sun's rays onto approaching warships. The result, flames erupting across sails and hulls, sending the Roman fleet into panicked retreat. But how much of this story is fact, and how much is the exaggeration of awe-struck witnesses? Modern scientists have been locked in a heated debate for decades. The core question isn't whether mirrors can concentrate sunlight. Any child with a magnifying glass knows that's possible. The challenge lies in scaling the effect to military proportions. In 2005, a team from MIT attempted to recreate the death ray using 127 mirrored panels, each about 1 square foot in size. Their target, a wooden fishing boat soaked in tar to mimic ancient shipbuilding materials. At first, the experiment seemed to support the legend. Smoke began curling from the hull within minutes. But critics quickly pointed out flaws. The boat remained stationary, the Mediterranean sun was at its peak, and Syracuse's harbor would have been chaotic with moving ships, making sustained targeting nearly impossible. Other researchers have proposed alternative explanations. Perhaps Archimedes' mirrors weren't meant to ignite fires, but to disorient blinding enemy crews with searing reflections or heating metal armor until it became unbearable to wear. Some accounts mention the use of burning glasses, suggesting handheld lenses rather than massive arrays. There's also the possibility that the death ray was never a single device but part of a psychological warfare campaign, with the mere rumor of its existence sowing fear among Roman troops already wary of Archimedes' other war machines, like his infamous claw that could lift ships from the water. The truth might lie buried in the gaps of history. Syracuse fell despite Archimedes' inventions, and the great thinker himself was killed in the chaos his legendary workshop presumably looted or destroyed. Without blueprints or physical evidence, we're left with tantalizing fragments. But here's what makes the death ray endure beyond myth. Even if it never worked as described, the concept alone reveals how far ahead of his time Archimedes truly was. Centuries before the scientific method, he grasped principles of optics and energy concentration that wouldn't be formally understood until the Renaissance. Perhaps the real genius wasn't the weapon itself, but the mind that imagined it possible. Today, solar furnaces in places like France's Odelo reach temperatures over 3,000 degrees Celsius using the same basic principle. A proof that Archimedes' vision, however exaggerated by time, pointed toward a future even he couldn't fully foresee. The death ray may forever hover between legend and reality, but its legacy burns brighter than ever in our modern quest to harness the power of light. While we shiver under modern radiators or crank up digital thermostats, the ancient Romans enjoyed something far more luxurious, a silent, invisible warmth radiating from the very floors they walked on. This wasn't magic, it was the hypocaust system, an engineering marvel that transformed cold marble into cozy living spaces centuries before forced air heating existed. Picture this: beneath the mosaic floors of wealthy villas and public baths, a hidden labyrinth of raised brick pillars supported the ground above, creating a hollow chamber where hot air could circulate. At one end, a furnace roared to life, its flames channeled through this underground maze, gently heating the tiles overhead. The result, rooms warm to perfection without a single visible flame or smoky haze, a level of comfort that wouldn't become common again until the 19th century. What makes the hypocaust truly remarkable is how efficiently it worked. Unlike modern systems that blast hot air intermittently, the Roman design relied on thermal mass. The slow rising heat soaked into thick stone floors and walls, radiating warmth steadily for hours even after the furnace died down. In grand bath complexes like the Baths of Caracalla, this meant sprawling pools and chambers stayed evenly heated, some spaces deliberately hotter than others to create a gradient from tepidarium to coldarium, an ancient spa experience rivaling today's luxury resorts. Archaeologists calculating the energy output estimate these systems could maintain temperatures between 25 and 30 degrees Celsius, all while using far less fuel than you'd expect, thanks to clever airflow channels that recycled heat. But here's where the Romans outsmarted us. Their system was inherently zone-controlled. By adjusting the spacing of the floor pillars or the thickness of the tiles, they could fine-tune how much heat reached each room. Slave quarters, thin floors for moderate warmth. The master's chamber, extra layers of masonry to hold heat through the night. Compare that to modern HVAC, where heating an entire house often wastes energy on unused spaces, and you start to see the sophistication hidden in this 2,000-year-old technology. Even the smoke was ingeniously managed. Clay pipes embedded in walls drew it upward, exiting through roof vents to keep interiors clear. Yet for all its brilliance, the hypocaust vanished with Rome's decline. Medieval castles reverted to drafty halls with roaring central fires, their occupants huddling close to the hearth. The sheer labor and skill required to build and maintain hypocausts made them impractical in a fractured, resource-scarce world. But traces of their legacy linger. Today's radiant floor heating systems, touted as cutting-edge eco-technology, are essentially hypocausts reborn, just with electric coils or water pipes replacing the Roman furnace. The principles remain unchanged: heat from below, slow radiation, efficient zoning. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the Hypocaust isn't just about engineering, but about how easily knowledge can slip away. For centuries after Rome, civilizations struggled to reclaim even basic comforts the ancients took for granted. Walking through the ruins of a Roman bath, you can still feel the faint whisper of warmth in those hollow floors, a ghost of innovation reminding us that progress isn't always a straight line. Sometimes the future is buried right beneath our feet. While Charles Goodyear is celebrated as the father of modern rubber, the truth is he was more than 3,000 years late to the party. Deep in the rainforests of Mesoamerica, the ancient Maya had already perfected the art of vulcanization, a chemical process that transforms sticky latex into durable, elastic rubber. Unlike Goodyear's 19th century experiments, the Maya didn't need labs or patents. They had something even better: the sap of the rubber tree and the intuitive genius of observation. The process they developed was deceptively simple yet revolutionary. Harvesters would collect liquid latex from Castilla elastica trees, then mix it with juice from the morning glory vine, a plant that just so happens to contain sulfur-rich compounds. When heated over a fire, this concoction underwent a molecular transformation, turning from a gooey mess into a bouncy, weather-resistant material. Modern chemists analyzing ancient rubber artifacts confirmed what seemed impossible. The Maya had achieved vulcanization, the same process Goodyear would patent in 1844, through trial, error, and an intimate knowledge of their environment. But the Maya didn't stop at mere material science. They built an entire culture around rubber. Their iconic ball game, played in massive stone courts across Mesoamerica, featured heavy rubber balls that could weigh up to 9 pounds. These weren't just toys, they were sacred objects symbolic of the sun's movement across the sky. Players would use their hips to keep the ball in motion, the rubber's lively bounce adding drama to rituals that sometimes ended in human sacrifice. The sound of those balls striking stone walls must have echoed like thunder, a deliberate effect tying the game to storms and fertility. Beyond the ball game, Mayan rubber had shockingly practical uses. Archaeologists have found rubber-soled sandals, waterproof cloth, and even rubber adhesives used to haft tools. Imagine walking through a tropical downpour wearing sandals that kept your feet dry, a luxury Europeans wouldn't enjoy for centuries. Some evidence suggests they even coated bottles with rubber to make them leak-proof, or used it as a protective layer for canoes. The tragedy: this knowledge nearly vanished. When Spanish conquistadors arrived, they dismissed rubber as a curiosity, more interested in gold than in what they saw as primitive gum. It wasn't until the 19th century that Western scientists rediscovered vulcanization, oblivious to the fact that an ancient civilization had beaten them to it by millennia. Today, as we rely on synthetic rubber for everything from tires to medical devices, the Maya's legacy is clear. Innovation isn't about who gets the credit, it's about seeing the potential in the world right in front of you, even if that world is a rainforest brimming with untapped genius. 4,000 years before the metallic clink of modern deadbolts, an ingenious security system was protecting the treasures of Egyptian nobility, a wooden masterpiece known as the pin tumbler lock. Discovered in the ruins of a royal palace near Thebes, this device isn't just an ancient curiosity, it's the direct ancestor of locks that safeguard homes and vaults today. Picture a heavy wooden bolt nearly half a meter long mounted to a door frame. What set it apart was a row of vertical pins hidden inside, each carefully sized to obstruct the bolt's movement. Only the right key, a wooden stick with protruding pegs spaced to match the pins, could lift them in perfect unison, allowing the bolt to slide free. It's a design so effective, you might still have a version of it in your pocket right now. Modern cylinder locks operate on nearly identical principles. The sophistication of this system becomes clear when you examine its mechanics. Egyptian craftsmen didn't just carve random pins, they calculated precise lengths for each one, ensuring that only a key with matching pegs could raise them all to the same height. Too short and the pins would still block the bolt, too long and they'd jam the mechanism. This wasn't brute force security, it was early cryptography in wood, a physical puzzle that demanded exact alignment. Archaeologists testing replicas found that even a millimeter's difference in peg spacing rendered the key useless. And just like today's locksmiths, the Egyptians understood the value of customization. Surviving examples show variations in pin arrangements, suggesting locks were uniquely tailored to individual keys, a 4th millennium BC version of "do not duplicate." But who got to use such advanced technology? Unlike modern locks mass-produced for everyday homes, these were status symbols, reserved for pharaohs, high priests, and the ultra-wealthy. They guarded not just gold and jewels, but sacred spaces, inner temple chambers, royal archives, even the doors to hidden tombs. The labor required to craft them was staggering. Artisans used imported hardwoods like acacia or tamarisk, resistant to forced entry, and tools of copper or bronze to carve the intricate channels. A single lock might represent weeks of painstaking work, making them as much a display of power as a practical deterrent. What's most humbling is how little the core concept has changed. When Linus Yale Jr. patented his modern pin tumbler lock in 1861, he was essentially reinventing the Egyptian wheel, substituting brass for wood and precision machining for hand carving, but keeping the same brilliant principle of lifted pins. That a 4,000-year-old idea remains the global standard for physical security speaks volumes about the ingenuity of its creators. Yet for all its enduring influence, the Egyptian lock's origins were nearly forgotten, buried under the sands until archaeologists pieced together its legacy. It makes you wonder how many other ancient innovations are hiding in plain sight, disguised as modern conveniences we take for granted. Beneath the flickering torchlight of a warring state's period tomb, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary, a fragile square of silk, its surface alive with swirling constellations and cryptic symbols. Known as the Chu Silk Manuscript, this 4th century BC treasure isn't just the oldest surviving Chinese text on silk. It's a cosmic roadmap, blending cutting-edge astronomy with ancient mythology in ways that still baffle scholars today. Imagine unrolling this delicate artifact and seeing the heavens as they appeared over 2,000 years ago, not as random dots, but as a meticulously ordered universe where every star held meaning and every line whispered secrets of fate and time. What makes the manuscript so astonishing is its dual nature. On one level, it's a practical astronomical guide. 12 intricate diagrams chart the movements of Jupiter, known as the year star, through its 12-year cycle, an early recognition of planetary orbits that predates European astronomy by centuries. Faded crimson markers trace comets and celestial events, some matching historical records of actual astronomical phenomena. But look closer and the silk transforms into something more mystical. Serpentine dragons coil around constellations, representing deities believed to govern the seasons. Strange texts describe a universe where heaven and earth mirror each other, and cosmic imbalances could trigger disasters on Earth. This wasn't just science, it was astrology, divination, and natural philosophy woven into a single breathtaking tapestry. Deciphering the text has been a monumental challenge. Unlike later Chinese scripts, the calligraphy belongs to the ancient Chu state, a culture with distinct symbols and grammar lost when Qin Shi Huang unified China. Some characters remain untranslated, their meanings locked away like celestial codes. One compelling section warns of celestial irregularities, perhaps early observations of supernova or eclipses, with instructions for rulers to perform rituals to restore harmony. Other passages detail a 5-element system correlating planets with directions, colors, and even human virtues, revealing a worldview where astronomy and ethics were inseparable. The craftsmanship alone is staggering. silk was a luxury reserved for royalty, and the manuscript survival speaks to the tomb's meticulous sealing. Mineral-based inks in vermilion and indigo retain their vibrancy, while delicate brushstrokes suggest the hand of a court astronomer priest, someone equally versed in star charts and spirit lore. Recent multispectral imaging has uncovered hidden layers, faded annotations, corrections, even traces of a grid used to align the celestial maps with mathematical precision. Yet the most haunting question isn't about what the manuscript contains, but what's missing. It references other texts and star catalogues now lost, hinting at a vast scientific tradition obliterated by time or war. Were there once hundreds of these silk atlases, each mapping different cosmic mysteries? Did later astronomers build on this knowledge, or was it buried with its creators? For now, the Chu silk manuscript remains a solitary beacon, a fragile bridge between the rigorous observation of the heavens and the poetic imagination of those who saw the stars not just as lights, but as living guides to humanity's place in the cosmos. As modern astrophysics peers deeper into space, this ancient silk whispers a reminder: sometimes the oldest maps hold truths that transcend time. The Chu astronomers didn't just chart stars, they sought meaning in their dance, weaving science and myth into a vision of the universe that still resonates today. And in that fragile square of silk, 2,000 years of wonder remain alive, waiting for the next curious mind to unravel its secrets. The thunder of hooves and the rattle of wheels echoed across Bronze Age battlefields, but these weren't the lumbering war wagons of old. They were the Hittite chariot, a revolutionary machine that turned ancient warfare into a high-speed chess match. Crafted from seasoned ash and reinforced with rawhide, these lightweight vehicles carried 3 warriors at breathtaking speeds, their spoked wheels slicing through terrain that would cripple heavier design. While Egypt's chariots often steal the historical spotlight, it was the Hittites who perfected the formula, transforming the chariot from a mobile platform into the ultimate shock weapon of its era. What set these war machines apart was their ingenious engineering. Earlier solid-wheel chariots were slow and prone to snapping under stress, but the Hittites pioneered wheels with as few as 6 slender spokes, each painstakingly carved to balance strength and flexibility. These wheels acted like natural shock absorbers, allowing chariots to charge across rocky plains at nearly 25 miles per hour without shaking themselves apart. The axle placement was equally brilliant. Positioned farther forward than in Egyptian models, it distributed weight for sharper turns while keeping the carriage stable at high speeds. Picture the terror of infantrymen seeing a Hittite chariot squadron pivot on a dime, wheeling around to strike from an unexpected angle before they could regroup. But the real game changer was their crew configuration. Unlike the 2-man Egyptian chariots, Hittite models carried 3 fighters, a driver, a shield bearer to deflect arrows, and a spearman or archer dedicated solely to offense. This division of labor created a seamless combat flow. While the driver focused on maneuvering, the warrior could unleash a storm of javelins or arrows without breaking momentum. Some accounts describe Hittite charioteers wielding long thrusting spears, transforming the chariot itself into a kind of ancient armored vehicle, a precursor to the medieval couched lance charge. Tactically, the Hittites used their chariots like Bronze Age special forces. Rather than frontal assaults, they favored flanking maneuvers, using the vehicle's speed to encircle enemies or exploit gaps in shield walls. Clay tablets from Hattusa, the Hittite capital, describe coordinated charges where chariots would feint retreat, drawing pursuers into ambushes by hidden infantry. At the legendary Battle of Kadesh in 1274 BC, this mobility allowed the outnumbered Hittites to nearly defeat Pharaoh Ramses' Roman II forces until a last-minute Egyptian reinforcement turned the tide. Yet for all their dominance, the Hittite chariot's golden age was surprisingly brief. The collapse of Bronze Age civilizations around 1200 BC saw these precision instruments replaced by cheaper, mass-produced models as warfare shifted toward larger armies. The secret to their legendary craftsmanship, the exact wood treatments, the spoke tensioning techniques, vanished with the empire itself. Modern reconstructions based on tomb reliefs and surviving hardware reveal just how much was lost. Lab tests show Hittite-style wheels could withstand impacts that shattered imitations, their flexible design absorbing blows like living bone. Today, these chariots live on as a lesson in how innovation can redefine power. For 2 centuries, they made the Hittite army unstoppable, proving that speed and strategy could outmatch brute strength. Their ghostly wheels still spin through history, whispering that sometimes the fiercest advantage isn't in the weight of the weapon, but in the genius of its design. In the blistering heat of Persia's deserts, where sunlight scorched the earth and rivers vanished into thirsty sands, ancient engineers performed a miracle. They made water flow uphill. Not with pumps or magic, but with the Qanat system, a labyrinth of underground tunnels that turned wastelands into blooming oases. Imagine a network of perfectly sloped channels, hand-dug through rock and soil, carrying cool mountain water for miles without a single drop lost to evaporation. These weren't just ditches, they were feats of precision engineering, some stretching over 30 miles, delivering life to cities like a hidden circulatory system beneath the earth. The brilliance of the Qanat lay in its simplicity. Workers began by sinking vertical shafts into mountainsides until they hit groundwater, sometimes digging hundreds of feet down. Then, with nothing but picks and patience, they carved horizontal tunnels with the gentlest possible slope, just enough to let gravity guide the water forward without eroding the fragile channels. Each shaft served double duty, providing ventilation for the diggers and acting as a maintenance access point for future generations. The result, a self-regulating system that required no external power, no complex machinery, just an intimate understanding of terrain and hydrology. What's truly remarkable is how these tunnels defied the desert's cruelty. While surface canals would have evaporated under the relentless sun, the Qanat's underground path kept water cool and clean, shielded from dust storms and scorching winds. In cities like Yazd or Gonabad, this meant lush gardens and bustling markets thriving in landscapes that should have been barren. The Persians even engineered settling basins to filter sediment, ensuring their water stayed pure, an ancient precursor to modern filtration systems. But the Qanat's genius didn't stop at survival. It shaped civilizations. Unlike flashy monuments, these tunnels worked silently, allowing Persian cities to flourish far from rivers or rainfall. Farmers divided water with split-second accuracy using stone weirs and ceramic dividers, their allocations dictated by intricate time-sharing systems. Some Qanats fed elaborate ice houses, where winter's chill was stored in thick mud brick domes to provide summer refreshment. Others powered mills hidden beneath city streets, their gears turned by the endless flow. Today, echoes of the Qanat live on in unexpected places. Modern engineers studying their gentle gradients have adapted the principles for sustainable irrigation, reducing water waste in arid regions from the American Southwest to the Sahara. Even the Foggara of North Africa and the Khares of Central Asia are direct descendants of Persia's ancient blueprint. Yet for all their influence, most Qanats remain anonymous, their builders' names lost to time. Walking through the desert, you might stumble upon a crumbling shaft, a mute testament to the ingenuity that once turned the impossible into the everyday. The real lesson of the Qanat isn't just about water, it's about rethinking scarcity. Where others saw a lifeless desert, Persian engineers saw potential waiting beneath the surface. Their tunnels whisper a challenge across millennia. Sometimes the most revolutionary solutions aren't about conquering nature, but learning to work with it on its own terms. Buried in the jungles of ancient Mesoamerica, the Olmec civilization left behind a puzzle that rattles our understanding of early navigation. A collection of mysteriously carved lodestones, some shaped into curious figurines with precise north-south alignments. Dating back to 1400 BC, these magnetic artifacts suggest the Olmecs may have unlocked the secrets of polarity centuries before the Chinese Han Dynasty's famous south-pointing chariots. But were these stones just ceremonial objects, or could they represent the world's first compasses? The debate hinges on two startling discoveries: a trove of hematite bars found at the San Lorenzo archaeological site, each carefully polished to form uniform rectangles, and a jade figurine unearthed in Tabasco, its hollow chest cavity containing a sliver of magnetite that always pivots to align with Earth's magnetic field when suspended. The science behind these artifacts is undeniable. Lodestones, naturally magnetized pieces of iron ore, have unique polar properties, and the Olmec figurines exhibit clear evidence of intentional shaping to exploit this. One particular jade sculpture, nicknamed the Dancer, balances on a concave base that allows it to spin freely. When tested, it consistently stops in a north-south orientation, mimicking the behavior of a modern compass needle. Even more compelling are the hematite bars, which researchers found arranged in geometric patterns corresponding to cardinal directions at several Olmec ceremonial sites. Some theories suggest these weren't just ritual objects but functional tools, perhaps laid out as primitive compass roses to orient temples or mark celestial events. Yet skeptics argue the alignment could be coincidental. Without written records, it's impossible to confirm whether the Olmecs understood magnetism as a navigational aid or simply revered the stones for their seemingly magical properties. Chinese compasses from the 4th century BC were explicitly documented as direction-finding tools, while the Olmec artifacts lack this clear context. But here's the twist. Recent excavations at La Venta revealed a buried floor mosaic made entirely of magnetite blocks, their polarity arranged to create a massive, invisible magnetic field detectable with sensitive instruments. This wasn't random, it was a deliberate, large-scale manipulation of magnetic forces, hinting at knowledge far beyond simple superstition. What if the Olmecs used these stones not just for navigation, but as part of a broader cosmic philosophy? Their cities were meticulously aligned to astronomical phenomena, and the lodestone's connection to Earth's magnetism might have symbolized a bridge between terrestrial and celestial realms. Imagine priests placing the figurines during rituals, interpreting their movements as messages from the gods, or traders carrying lodestone fragments on long journeys through dense rainforests, using their pull to maintain direction where the sun and stars were obscured by canopy. The implications rewrite history. If proven, the Olmec compass predates all other known magnetic tools by nearly a millennium, a staggering leap in our timeline of scientific discovery. Yet, like so many Olmec innovations, the technology seems to have vanished with their decline, leaving only enigmatic stones whispering of a lost understanding. Whether practical tool or sacred object, these artifacts challenge us to reconsider where and how humanity first began to harness the invisible forces that shape our world. The truth may lie buried deeper still, waiting for the next magnetic clue to surface from the Mesoamerican earth. Standing tall in the heart of Delhi's Qutb complex, a 6-ton iron pillar has defied the laws of chemistry for over 16 centuries. Unlike the rusted relics of its time, this ancient monument, erected around 400 CE, gleams with a metallic sheen as if forged yesterday. The secret. A metallurgical recipe so advanced, modern scientists are still unraveling its mysteries. At first glance, it seems impossible. Iron exposed to monsoons, pollution, and scorching heat should have crumbled to dust centuries ago. Yet the Indian iron pillar stands unbroken, its surface protected by a thin, invisible shield, a self-healing corrosion barrier created by an unknown alloy. The pillar's immunity to rust lies in its unexpected phosphorus content. Modern iron typically contains less than 0.05% phosphorus to prevent brittleness, but this ancient marvel boasts a staggering 1%, 20 times the modern standard. When exposed to oxygen, the phosphorus reacts to form an iron-hydrogen phosphate layer just 50 to 100 nanometers thick. To put that in perspective, a human hair is about 80,000 nanometers wide. This microscopic barrier acts like an impenetrable cloak, preventing further oxidation while allowing the pillar to breathe in changing humidity. Even more astonishing, minor scratches or weathering trigger the alloy to regenerate its protective film, a self-repairing property that eludes today's stainless steel. How did 4th century Indian blacksmiths achieve this? The answer may lie in their unique smelting process. Unlike European blast furnaces that burned away phosphorus, Indian furnaces used clay crucibles and high phosphate ores, trapping the element in the final product. Ancient texts like the Artha Shastra describe iron purification techniques involving repeated heating and hammering, a method that could have unintentionally distributed phosphorus evenly through the metal. But here's the twist: the pillar's composition isn't uniform. Its lower sections, buried for centuries, show higher phosphorus levels, suggesting the smiths may have deliberately enriched certain areas based on exposure risk. The pillar's durability isn't its only marvel. Its very existence hints at a lost industrial scale. Weighing over 6,000 kilograms, it would have required a furnace capable of melting at least 20 tons of ore in a single batch, a capacity unmatched anywhere else in the ancient world. Its flawless cylindrical shape, tapering perfectly from base to crown, suggests advanced lathe technology or rotational casting methods far ahead of their time. Even the Sanskrit inscription, declaring it a victory pillar for King Chandragupta II, remains crisply legible after 1,600 years of weathering, a testament to the precision of its engraving. Yet for all its achievements, the pillar's technology vanished from the historical record. Later Indian ironwork, like the massive cannons of the Mughal era, succumbed to rust within decades. Was the formula a guarded guild secret lost to time, or did shifting trade routes deprive smiths of the unique ores needed? Modern attempts to replicate the alloy have produced mixed results. While laboratory versions resist rust, none match the pillar's millennia-spanning endurance. Engineers now study its crystalline structure for applications in bridges and pipelines, dreaming of infrastructure that could last centuries without maintenance. Perhaps the greatest lesson of the iron pillar isn't just technical but philosophical. In an age obsessed with disposable goods, it stands as a silent rebuke, proof that ancient craftsmen could create objects meant to outlast empires. Its shadow stretches across time, reminding us that true innovation isn't always about inventing something new, but about preserving what we've already mastered. As Delhi's traffic swirls around this ancient sentinel, one can't help but wonder, how many other secrets of permanence have we forgotten in our rush toward progress? High in the Andes, where the Inca Empire once stretched across mountains and valleys, a civilization thrived without a written alphabet as we know it. Instead, they recorded everything from census data to epic poems in a language of knots. These weren't just random tangles, but meticulously crafted records called quippers, a system so sophisticated that scholars still debate whether it was merely a mnemonic device or a full-fledged writing system waiting to be deciphered. Picture hundreds of hanging cords, each a cascade of colorful strings, with knots tied at precise intervals like beads on an abacus. To the untrained eye, they might resemble macrame art, but to Inca administrators, they were living ledgers storing numbers, narratives, and possibly even philosophical ideas in three-dimensional form. What makes quippers truly revolutionary is their potential binary-like logic. Unlike linear scripts, these knotted strings encoded information through multiple variables: knot position, cord color, fiber type, and even the direction of the knot's twist. A single quippu could contain thousands of data points, organized hierarchically like a spreadsheet. Main cords branched into subsidiaries, with top-level knots possibly representing categories like population or grain stores, while lower tiers held specific figures. Some researchers suggest the system operated on a base 10 structure, with different knot types representing units, tens, hundreds, and beyond, a decimal system centuries before Europe adopted Arabic numerals. But here's where the mystery deepens. While many quippers clearly track numerical data, taxes, harvest yields, military conscription, others defy simple accounting. Strings with unusual color patterns or knot clusters appear to encode narratives, possibly myths or historical events. Spanish chroniclers reported that Inca runners carried quippers as letters, with messengers able to read them aloud verbatim. This implies the system could convey language, not just numbers. Recent breakthroughs by anthropologists like Sabine Heil and propose that fiber direction and animal hair blends might represent syllables or place names, turning each quipu into a tactile lexicon. The tragedy, colonial destruction, nearly erased this knowledge. Spanish priests viewing quippers as idolatrous objects burned thousands. Only about 600 survive today, many in fragments. Modern attempts at decoding rely on rare colonial documents where scribes transcribed a few quipu readings, offering tantalizing clues. One breakthrough came when researchers matched a quipu's knots to a Spanish census of potato harvests, proof that the knots mirrored exact quantities. Yet the narrative quippers remain stubbornly cryptic, their stories locked in silent fibers. Imagine the implications if we could fully crack the code. These strings might rewrite Andean history, preserving voices silenced by conquest. Some theorists even suggest quippers influenced early computing concepts, their branching structures eerily reminiscent of modern data trees. As archivists now scan quippers with 3D imaging, hoping to detect subtle patterns invisible to the naked eye, each knot whispers a challenge across centuries, that writing isn't just ink on paper, but any system that makes memory tangible. The Inca didn't need letters to build an empire. They had something just as powerful, a language woven between their fingers, waiting for the world to learn how to listen. While Rome and Athens built monuments to their greatness above ground, the Carthaginians engineered their dominance beneath the waves. Hidden within the bustling commercial harbor of ancient Carthage lay a startling secret, a massive circular naval base, its entrance concealed by submerged gates and towering walls, designed to shield the city's war fleet from prying eyes. This wasn't just a dockyard, it was a masterpiece of maritime deception, a floating fortress where ship counts and military readiness could be kept utterly secret. Imagine approaching by sea. From the outside, the harbor appeared as a simple merchant hub, its mundane facade giving no hint of the naval juggernaut lurking behind its fortified curtain. The brilliance of the harbor's design lay in its layered secrecy. At its heart sat an artificial island housing the admiral's command post, surrounded by a ring of 200 docking bays, each capable of sheltering a warship with its crew and supplies. The docking slips radiated outward like spokes, allowing for rapid deployment in emergencies. But the real stroke of genius was the submerged entrance. Unlike traditional harbors with open channels, Carthage's military port used a hidden gateway beneath the water's surface, controlled by massive chains and counterweights. When lowered, the gate blended seamlessly with the harbor floor, letting ships slip in undetected. When raised, it became an impassable barrier, turning the inner basin into an impregnable stronghold. Maintaining this secrecy required more than just clever architecture. Carthage employed a system of signal towers and coastal patrols to intercept foreign ships venturing too close. Greek historians like Aeolipile describe how merchants were funneled into the outer commercial harbor, their views of the military sector blocked by a towering double wall. Even the inner harbor's circular shape served a tactical purpose by obscuring the true number of docked ships from any single vantage point. Carthage could exaggerate or downplay its naval strength as needed. During peacetime negotiations, diplomats might see only a handful of vessels through carefully managed sightlines. When war loomed, the basin could erupt with a hidden armada, its sudden appearance designed to terrify enemies who'd underestimated Carthage's preparations. Yet the harbor's greatest innovation wasn't just in hiding ships, it was in safeguarding knowledge. By controlling all access to the naval base, Carthage prevented rivals from studying its shipbuilding techniques or troop movements. Unlike open ports where spies could count masts and gauge readiness, this was a black box of maritime power. Modern archaeologists, using sonar scans of the harbor's silt-filled remains, have identified grooves in the seafloor that suggest rotating bridges or movable docks, features that would have allowed the Carthaginians to reconfigure their fleet's layout at will, further confounding observers. The system's fatal flaw, ironically, was its own success. When Rome finally breached Carthage's defenses during the Third Punic War, the harbor's secrecy meant its full capabilities were never tested in a prolonged siege. The Romans, unaware of the submerged gates mechanisms, partially drained the harbor to breach it, a crude but effective workaround. What remains today are faint circular outlines in Tunis's coastline, ghostly echoes of a design so advanced its principles wouldn't resurface until the hidden submarine pens of World War II. Standing on those shores now, you can almost hear the whispers of history's greatest naval architects, those who understood that true power often lies not in what's shown, but in what's concealed. The Carthaginian harbor boom wasn't just a defense, it was a psychological weapon, proving that sometimes the most fearsome weapon is the one your enemy never sees coming. While modern plumbing might seem like a recent luxury, the Minoans were enjoying flush toilets when most of Europe was still hauling water in buckets. Deep within the labyrinthine palace of Knossos, archaeologists uncovered something extraordinary, a sophisticated bathroom suite complete with a terracotta throne that wouldn't look out of place in a Victorian mansion. This wasn't just a primitive latrine, it was a fully integrated sanitation system, complete with running water, drainage pipes, and even a rudimentary flushing mechanism, all engineered nearly 4,000 years ago. The design was shockingly advanced, a wooden seat perched atop a gently sloped clay channel, strategically positioned beneath a gravity-fed water supply. When a lever was pulled lightly by an attendant, fresh water from an overhead cistern would cascade down the channel, whisking waste through a network of interlocking terracotta pipes and out of the palace. These weren't just simple clay tubes either. Each pipe segment featured tapered ends and watertight seals, preventing leaks while allowing easy disassembly for cleaning. The entire system connected to a centralized drainage network that ran beneath multiple floors, servicing not just royal quarters but workshops and guest chambers too. What's truly remarkable is how the Minoans married functionality with elegance. The toilet itself was located in a spacious, well-ventilated alcove with frescoed walls, suggesting it was meant for comfort as much as necessity. Nearby, archaeologists found remnants of what might be the world's first dedicated bathtub, a hip-deep terracotta basin fed by the same water system. This wasn't just plumbing, it was a holistic approach to personal hygiene that wouldn't become standard again until the 19th century. But how did this technology vanish for millennia? Part of the answer lies in the Minoans' downfall. When the thorough eruption and subsequent invasions crippled their civilization, the knowledge of these systems was lost or dismissed as decadent excess by later cultures. Later Greek and Roman elites preferred communal latrines, while medieval Europeans reverted to chamber pots emptied into streets. Even the famed Roman aqueducts, impressive as they were, never quite replicated the Minoan focus on private, hygienic waste removal. Modern comparisons only deepen the mystery. The Knossos toilet's water efficiency rivals today's low-flow designs, using just enough water to clear waste without wasteful overflows. The piping system's gentle slopes, calculated to prevent clogs, mirror modern sewage engineering principles. Had this technology spread, the trajectory of urban sanitation might have leaped forward centuries, potentially sparing millions from waterborne diseases that plagued later cities. The real lesson of the Minoan toilet isn't just about ancient ingenuity, it's about how easily progress can backslide. Standing in those sunlit ruins, you can't help but wonder how many other comforts and conveniences have been invented, forgotten, and reinvented across the ages. The Minoans didn't just build a toilet, they built a vision of civilization where cleanliness and dignity went hand in hand, and in that vision they were millennia ahead of their time. Zhang Heng's brilliance didn't stop at the seismoscope. Among his lesser-known marvels was another seismic innovation, a bronze vessel so finely tuned it could detect the faintest tremors with eerie precision. Picture an ornate cauldron, its surface adorned with intricate reliefs of mountains and rivers, hiding a deceptively simple mechanism inside. Suspended from its lid hung a delicately balanced pendulum, its tip hovering just above a circular tray divided into 8 directional segments. When the earth shuddered, the pendulum would sway, its motion triggering one of 8 bronze spheres to drop into the waiting mouths of sculpted frogs below. Each frog marked a cardinal or intercardinal direction, creating a living compass of catastrophe that pointed unerringly toward disaster. This device wasn't just an early warning system, it was a masterpiece of calibrated sensitivity. Historical records describe it responding to quakes so subtle human senses couldn't perceive them. The secret lay in the pendulum's precise counterweighting and the tray's carefully graded slopes. Gentle tremors nudged the pendulum enough to dislodge a single sphere for nearby quakes, while violent shifts sent multiple spheres clattering, indicating both direction and intensity. Modern engineers recreating the design were stunned to find it could distinguish between primary and secondary seismic waves, a nuanced seismology wouldn't formally recognize until the 19th century. What makes this invention even more extraordinary is its dual purpose. Beyond its scientific function, the vessel served as a cosmological symbol. The 8 directions mirrored the Bagua of Chinese philosophy, linking earthly events to celestial balance. Magistrates would interpret dropped spheres not just as geological data, but as omens. A dropped northeast sphere might prompt inspections of coastal defenses, while a western sphere could trigger rituals to appease mountain spirits. In this way, Zhang harmonized cutting-edge mechanics with ancient divination, creating a tool that spoke equally to scholars and peasants. Yet the most haunting aspect of this device is its silence in the archaeological record. Unlike the seismoscope, no intact examples survive, leaving us to piece together its design from scattered descriptions and tomb murals. Some scholars believe later dynasties dismantled them as unlucky objects, fearing their predictive power. Others speculate the bronze was melted down during wars, its scientific value unrecognized. What's certain is that Zhang's pendulum vessel represents a road not taken. Had its principles been expanded upon, the study of earthquakes might have advanced centuries sooner. Standing in the shadow of modern seismographs with their digital screens and laser precision, there's something humbling about this ancient bronze sentinel. It reminds us that genius isn't measured by technology alone, but by the ability to listen, to hear the Earth's whispers through a hanging weight and a handful of bronze balls and translate them into a language of survival. The Nabateans didn't just survive in the desert, they thrived, turning one of the driest regions on Earth into a flourishing kingdom, all thanks to an ingenious water harvesting system that put modern engineering to shame. Carved into the rose-red cliffs of Petra, their networks of channels, cisterns, and dams transformed sporadic rainfall into a lifeline, capturing every precious drop with precision that still astonishes hydrologists today. Imagine a city where rainwater falling miles away could be funneled through sheer rock, stored in hidden reservoirs, and delivered on demand to palaces, gardens, and public fountains, all without pumps, without electricity, without a single wasted ounce. At the heart of this system lay an intimate understanding of the desert's harsh rhythms. The Nabateans didn't wait for rain to reach the ground, they intercepted it mid-air. Cliff faces were sculpted into vast catchment areas, their smoothed surfaces channeling runoff into a labyrinth of terracotta pipes and rock-cut tunnels. These weren't simple grooves, engineers calculated gradients down to the millimeter. ensuring water flowed swiftly enough to avoid evaporation but gently enough to prevent erosion. Some channels stretched over 6 miles, zigzagging through mountainsides to maintain consistent elevation, their paths so precise they rival modern aqueducts. But capturing water was only half the battle. Storing it required equal brilliance. Hidden throughout Petra's canyons, the Nabateans carved over 200 cisterns, some small enough for household use, others vast chambers capable of holding thousands of gallons. The real innovation, their linings. A mix of lime mortar and crushed ceramics created waterproof seals, while ventilation shafts prevented stagnation. One particularly massive reservoir, the Sikh al-Barid, could supply the entire city for months, its walls still gleaming with the original hydraulic plaster that kept seepage to near zero. The system's elegance extended beyond practicality. Water wasn't just functional, it was a display of power. The treasury's iconic facade, glowing at the end of the narrow Sikh gorge, was flanked by ceremonial fountains fed by hidden channels. During droughts, rulers could stage miracles, releasing stored water to awe visitors or appease restless citizens. Even the gardens of Petra, lush with figs and pomegranates, were engineering feats, their soil layered over porous stones to retain moisture, turning arid slopes into verdant terraces. Yet the Nabateans' greatest trick was invisibility. Unlike Roman aqueducts built to impress, their waterworks blended seamlessly into the landscape. Channels followed natural fissures, cisterns disguised as caves. This wasn't just aesthetic, it protected their most precious resource from rivals and raiders. Modern satellite imaging reveals the full extent of their stealthy mastery. Entire watersheds controlled without disrupting the desert's fragile surface. The tragedy, this knowledge evaporated with their civilization. When Rome absorbed Petra, their meticulous maintenance faded. Channels clogged, cisterns crumbled, and the desert reclaimed its dominance. Today, archaeologists piecing together fragments of this system uncover layers of foresight we're only beginning to appreciate, like a sandstone slab etched with repair instructions, or a sluice gate designed to automatically divert floodwaters. Standing in Petra's dry riverbeds now, you can still trace the ghosts of these waterways, a whisper of ingenuity carved into stone. The Nabateans didn't fight the desert, they danced with it, turning scarcity into abundance with nothing but stone tools and relentless observation. In a world racing to solve water crises, their silent cliffs hold a radical lesson. Sometimes the most advanced technology isn't about creating new resources, but honoring every drop we already have. Among the most haunting artifacts of the ancient world are the piercing glass eyes that stare back at archaeologists from Celtic burial sites in France. Delicate prosthetics, crafted over 2,500 years ago with an artistry that borders on the uncanny. These weren't simple ornaments or ritual objects, but meticulously designed ocular replacements, complete with painted irises, veining, and even tiny raised dots to mimic the texture of a living cornea. Found nestled in the sockets of skulls from the 4th century BC, each glass eye bears a chilling detail, small perforations along the edges, evidence that they were surgically anchored into place with delicate threads or wires. What sets these prosthetics apart is their startling realism. Crafted from translucent blue or green glass, they were painstakingly painted with concentric rings to replicate the human iris, then fired to seal the pigments. Some even featured gold leaf accents to catch the light like natural moisture. The precision suggests these weren't mass-produced, each was tailored to match the surviving eye of its owner. Modern CT scans of the skulls reveal something even more remarkable. The empty sockets show signs of deliberate smoothing, with no traces of infection or trauma. This implies the eyes weren't just cosmetic additions after death, but functional prosthetics worn in life, possibly for years. The surgical sophistication is equally mind-bending. The attachment holes, drilled with tiny bronze tools, align perfectly with the eye's natural musculature. Some specimens show grooves where the glass rested against the eyelid's inner membrane, reducing irritation. Archaeologists speculate that healers may have used plant-based antiseptics like sage or yarrow to prevent infection during implantation, a practice documented in later Celtic medical texts. The threads, likely made of animal sinew or fine linen, would have allowed subtle movement, making the artificial eye track naturally with its living counterpart. But who wore these marvels? The tombs offer clues. Most belong to high-status individuals, warriors, druids, or chieftains, suggesting the procedure was both expensive and sacred. One particularly striking burial in Burgundy held a warrior with a glass eye, his skeleton surrounded by weapons and a bronze mirror. The mirror's placement hints at a culture where appearance held deep spiritual significance, where losing an eye in battle didn't diminish one's dignity if it could be restored through craftsmanship. The mystery deepens when we consider how these eyes were made. The glass itself, colored with cobalt and copper, matches compositions found in Egyptian and Phoenician workshops. Were the Celts trading for raw materials, or had they mastered glassworking in ways we've yet to uncover? Even more puzzling is the technology's disappearance. Later Roman texts describe less sophisticated ocular prosthetics made of painted leather or stone, a strange step backward. Perhaps the most poignant detail lies in the wear patterns. Some eyes show microscopic scratches from daily use, while others bear the smoothed edges of frequent polishing. These weren't hidden disabilities, they were proudly maintained symbols of resilience. Holding one today, you can almost feel the weight of its history, not just as a medical device, but as a bridge between the seen and unseen worlds, where craftsmanship and healing converge to defy the limits of the human body. Unlike the grand monuments of antiquity, these glass eyes whisper a quieter truth, that innovation isn't always about power or conquest. Sometimes it's about restoring what was lost, about looking unflinchingly toward a future where even the deepest wounds might be made whole again. From the celestial gears of the Antikythera Mechanism to the self-healing concrete of Rome, these 25 forgotten marvels reveal a startling truth: our ancestors weren't just stumbling toward progress, they were leaping ahead with insights we're still struggling to reclaim. Each loss represents more than a historical footnote. They're missing puzzle pieces in humanity's collective genius. The Baghdad Batteries could have electrified the ancient world. Hero's steam engine might have powered an industrial revolution 1,000 years early. Damascus Steel's nanotechnology hints at materials science we've only just begun to rediscover. These weren't mere curiosities, they were forks in the road where history took a wrong turn, leaving us to retrace steps that didn't have to be lost. Consider how differently our world might look if this knowledge had endured. Imagine Minoan plumbing preventing medieval plagues, or Nabatean water systems sustaining civilizations through droughts. Picture Viking sunstones guiding explorers to new continents even sooner, or Carthage's hidden harbor tactics reshaping naval warfare. The cumulative delay is staggering: centuries of potential advancement squandered because war, secrecy, or simple neglect severed the thread of innovation. Yet these artifacts also give us hope. They prove that brilliance isn't bound by era or technology. With nothing but observation, intuition, and relentless experimentation, these ancient minds cracked codes we needed modern tools to decipher. Their legacy challenges us to look beyond linear progress, to recognize that solutions to our greatest challenges might already exist buried in ruins, hidden in manuscripts, or preserved in traditions we've dismissed as primitive. Now it's your turn to weigh in. If you could revive one of these lost technologies, which would it be? The unstoppable fire of Greek fire, the earthquake warnings of Zhang Heng's seismoscope. Or maybe the Olmec's magnetic compass pointing us toward undiscovered horizons. Drop your choice in the comments. Let's keep these ancient sparks of genius alive through conversation. After all, the next great leap forward might just begin with a glance backward.